Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and I start with an apology. I have been struggling with a flu, and so my voice is not what I would like it to be. And if I cough a little bit, I want you to forgive me. But I'm here tonight because I've missed the shows for the previous weeks. I want to thank very much my brother and Deputy Premier, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, who filled in for me. But of course, the Honorable Evelyn is now in Barbados at Carifest as Minister of Culture with the team from St. Kitts and Nevis. And I want to say kudos to him and kudos to the entire team. They're doing a really wonderful job representing the Federation. And the Honeybee String Band is really performing. We have the Mokojumbi, and we have, of course, the contingent from St. Kitts as well. So we say thank you to them for their work as ambassadors. Today I realized that Vaughn Anslin is also there, and that a hairdresser from St. Kitts apparently won a hairdressing competition there. So we have a number of creatives who are there, and I say kudos to them all. They're representing us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot that we want to get into tonight, and so I want you to bear with me, because really the number one issue in the Federation, I would say, at this point, has to do with the Sustainable Zone Authorization Act that was passed unanimously in the National Assembly on August 11th. And the legislation has sparked a lot of discussion and debate, which is good. It shows that in our democracy that there is, of course, considerable interest in matters that are happening. But one of the difficulties that I've had is that, of course, the opposition in Nevis has launched some blistering attacks based on misinformation. I was sick, as I said. I was away. I had traveled to the United States for an event at Martha's Vineyard, which incidentally went very well. And, of course, I fell ill. And so when I got back, I was really not physically in a position. I hardly had a voice to respond. But I crafted an address, and I believe that address was aired on Monday evening right here on Vaughan Radio and on radio stations around the Federation. And in that address, I just really sought to tell people what the legislation actually provided for, and to say to people what some of the false allegations were, and to clarify that for individuals. For example, I hear nonsense being said about people will not be allowed to go into this zone. They have said things like people will not be allowed to go to the ocean, fishermen will be locked out, all manner of things they've said. I've seen an absurd document put out by the NRP with a drawing, interestingly enough, in green ink, spreading a zone from Butlers all the way in the east, all around the southern coast of Nevis to Bath Village. That's the kind of rubbish that is being spread. And I think that it's important that debate in the country is based on fact. And therein lies my difficulty. I have been accused that I have somehow been dishonest with the public. I've been accused that I am somehow hiding something from the public. I take my integrity very seriously. I have always, through my political life, said to the people of Nevis that if it's one thing they can count on me for, it is that I will be honest with you. And I've come in good times and bad. I've come during COVID, for example, when we were at our lowest. I have come at times when we're doing well. But I've always come truthfully to the people of Nevis. I take that very seriously. And no government, no predecessor premier, no government has been as open and as transparent as my government. From integrity in public life that we introduced and operationalized even long before our sister St. Kitts. We have, in terms of a monthly press conference, and I'm here on a weekly basis on the mark, once I'm in country and I'm well, where we open the lines and we have conversations. Tell me which leader anywhere is doing that. And so I take this responsibility very seriously. I see it as my sworn duty. And I've always said to the people of Nevis, you have put your trust in me, and I will not betray your trust. I am not saying that I am perfect or I make all perfect decisions. After all, based on biblical account, we had Jesus who was perfect, and then we had Adam. One was crucified and the other sinned. I'm neither Jesus nor Adam. I'm me. And along the way, sometimes things may go wrong. You make decisions with the best of intentions. They may not always be the right decisions, but Nevisians can always count on the fact that I will be honest with you. On that note, I was reminded that 18 years ago, the good people of Nevis 9, St. John's and St. Paul's sent me to Parliament on this day. And I want to say thank you to them. For 18 years, they have sent me time and time again, in 2007, in 2010, in 2015, in 2020, and in 2022. They have sent me time and time again back to Bastille to represent them. Despite all that is said, it says to me that the people of Number 9 have reposed their trust and confidence in me, and I will not betray it. Now, let's get into the meat of the matter. We had a town hall meeting in Gingerland as a series of town hall meetings that the government organized. At that town hall meeting in Gingerland, one resident of the area came to the town hall and asked about rumors that she was hearing about some development that she said fishermen will not be able to go into the sea, she will not be able to go fishing, and something along those lines. I said to the lady at the time that while we had had some preliminary indications from a developer that they wanted to do a development along the southern coast of Nevis, that we had no formal submission before the cabinet, and that I did not feel as Premier, representing the Nevis Island administration, as a responsible leader, that I should at a town hall engage in rumors, whether to dispel them or to speak to them. I believe that I should have a factual basis in front of me whenever I speak to the people of Nevis. Some said I was being discourteous, and now I understand it is being said that I was being dishonest. I want to say to you, my integrity is important to me. There's no reason that I need to be dishonest about anything. Nevisians, and particularly those in opposition, have for the past years lambasted me and my government. And you know what the cry has been? There is no investment. There's not sufficient investment. They have said that investors are out at sea. I'm sure that you all can remember that, because the NRP, that has been their mantra for years. Investors are out at sea and they're not coming ashore. But every time investors do come ashore and the government is in discussions, no decisions, because I hasten to remind the public that there has been no decisions made in relation to any development on the South Coast. We now have a formal proposal. And on the basis of that, I can speak publicly and with some authority on the details of that proposal. But notwithstanding that no decision has been made, the NRP has now gone into overdrive. I am hearing all manner of evil being said. These investors are criminals. I am selling out Nevis. The government is selling out Nevis. I am hiding things from people. All manner of nonsense is being spouted. And I am saying to the NRP, listen, the lands on the south coast of Nevis, stretching from Long Point all the way around the south coast, perhaps as far along as the lighthouse or maybe beyond that, those lands have stayed in a barren state for a century. I got a message tonight on my way here. The gentleman say for 75 years he has known those lands to be barren. There's no infrastructure, there's no water, there's no electricity, there's no road, there is nothing over there. And those lands have not been proven adequate even for agriculture. It's an area on the island which is windswept by the Atlantic, and there are no beaches over there. It's mostly cliff and rock. That is the nature of that land, and for that whole area of Nevis, there is no development. We, in fact, as government, were contemplating doing a road in that area, and we were in the process of putting together a request for proposals for design on that road. The preliminary estimates that we got was that that road would cost us perhaps $40 million. A road, might I add, that would go through an area where the lands are privately owned lands. And I want to get back to that. when these developers started to show an interest in the area, one of the things that we indicated to them is that if you were able to acquire lands in the area and to do a development, then you would have to put in the infrastructure. The road, the water, the electricity, and the relevant infrastructure. And they agreed. I want to pause for a moment and just allow our people to think about that. Think about the southern coast as it now is, undeveloped and barren. No roads, no water, no electricity, nothing over there. Think about the possibility now that we can get development where the infrastructure is put in, not at our cost. You take St. Kitts, for example. On the Southeast Peninsula, where the lands were privately owned, the taxpayer of St. Kitts put in that road, the Kennedy Simmons Highway. Here we are proposing to have infrastructure put in into that area at the developer's cost, not at the cost of the government. So I go back to my town hall meeting in Gingerland. It was on July 5th. I remember it well. And I said something there that I want to play for you tonight. It is a short clip, but I want you to listen to my actual response to the resident who rose to her feet and spoke about rumors that she was hearing. And this was my response to her.
All this chatter and this hysteria, I can tell you that we have had an initial approach by some developers who said they want to do a development along that coast. Nothing formal in terms of a formal submission has come to the cabinet. So as we are sitting here tonight, I cannot say to you in good conscience that we have a project that has come and that is being discussed. We have said to those potential developers, the government doesn't own any land in the area, so if you want to do development that involves land, go and talk to the landowners and see who is willing to sell you their land. Well, so I need to ask the question this way. If you own a piece of land and you decide you're going to sell your land, what do you want the government to do about that? Can we stop you from selling your land? We can't. Can we tell you that who to sell your land to? How much to sell it for? None of those things involve the government. So you have private individuals being approached about whether they're willing to sell their private land, and people cussing the government and saying the government is involved in this and that. We're not involved in anything. You're either going to sell your land or you're not going to sell your land.
Okay, that was what was actually said. You will notice that in that I said we had a preliminary approach from some investors who indicated an interest in doing a project along the southern coast of Nevis. And our response to them is that the government itself did not have any lands in that area, certainly none that I'm aware of. And therefore, the lands as we understood it are owned by well over 200 different landowners. We said, go and if you can get people to sell you their land, and you can acquire the land that you need for development, then you can come back and speak to us. I could not engage at that town hall in hyperbole. I could not engage in speculation, and I definitely, as Premier of Nevis, will not engage in rumors. And so I said what I said because I spoke honestly in the circumstances of where we were and what we knew. Since then, the developers have indicated that they have gone through their process and they have acquired lands or have commitments on lands or whatever it is they're doing. And these are private lands. And I want to emphasize that. I said I would emphasize it earlier. Because we have had been bandied about by the opposition that the government is selling out all these lands in Nevis. I want to be very clear with the people of Nevis this evening that the government has not sold 1 square inch of land to anybody. The lands that are being sold are being negotiated as between private people. And as I asked at the town hall, can the government tell a division whether to sell or not to sell or who to sell to or at what price? That is not within the government's purview. And so I wanted to make that very clear. Now, into this debate, the leader of the NRP waded And she made an address, I believe it was on August 19th. I want to just play for you a clip of what she said so that you could hear just this little clip. It's only a few seconds. But I want you to hear what she said when she addressed the nation on the 19th of August.
For the record, my late father, Sir Simeon Daniel, owned land on the southern side of Nevis, and he gave clear instructions in his last will and testament that the land is to be sold. On that basis, when the executors of his estate were approached with a request to purchase that land last year, an agreement was negotiated to sell the land. Those were the wishes of my late father. As far as I can recall, there was nothing unusual or no reason to be concerned when the agreement was executed. Personally, I do not own any land on the south side of Nevis, and I am not selling any land on the south side of Nevis.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to go on record tonight to say that the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge sought in her statement to woefully mislead and fool the people of Nevis. I say that without any water in my mouth, and I will explain why. They have been asking for receipts. Well, I have some receipts with me this evening. Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, when she made that statement, let me be clear, she is the one who introduced her father into this discussion. She is the one who introduced her father's will into this discussion. And during her national address to the nation, she sought to shift responsibility from herself by claiming that her father had land. Her father in his will said the land is to be sold. And then she said the executors negotiated the sale. And she then went on to say she has no land and sold no land in the area. Can we play it again, please? I'm going to ask the technician because I want our people to listen very carefully to what the leader of NRP had to say publicly.
For the record, my late father, Sir Simeon Daniel, owned land on the southern side of Nevis, and he gave clear instructions in his last will and testament that the land is to be sold. On that basis, when the executors of his estate were approached with a request to purchase that land last year, an agreement was negotiated to sell the land. Those were the wishes of my late father. As far as I can recall, there was nothing unusual or no reason to be concerned when the agreement was executed. Personally, I do not own any land on the south side of Nevis, and I am not selling any land on the south side of Nevis.
Ladies and gentlemen, I played the statement a second time because you will notice that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge said that the executors negotiated the sale of the land and entered into the agreement to sell the land. Dr. Daniel Hodge forgot to tell you that she is an executor. She is an executor, and she signed the very document to sell the land, bears the signature of Janice Daniel Hodge. How could she forget that important point in her national address to the people of Nevis? But I go beyond that. What is most egregious is that Dr. Daniel Hodge is seeking to persuade our people that this somehow had nothing to do with her. She said it was her father's wishes that the land be sold. But her father's wishes that the land be sold did not say that the land be sold to these developers. The land could have been sold to anyone. She chose, as an executor, to sell the land to these developers. And nothing is wrong with that. She has every right to sell these lands. But she introduced her father's will into this national debate. What perhaps she did not know is that if you take a $5 stamp to the registry and you go and ask to search the probate registry, you can get a copy of any will that was probated. And so, I have with me tonight a copy. And that copy shows that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge and a brother, I'm not going to get into that because the brother is not material for this discussion, were appointed executors on the 6th of December 2012 in the estate of Dr. Daniel. In the will of Dr. Daniel, he says, I nominate and appoint Janice Hodge as an executor and trustee of this my last will and testament. When she made the address, she forgot to tell us that part. But I'm not even going to worry about the rest of the will, because the will makes provision as every father would for his children. I want to go directly to the 25 acres of land. And I have the deed for that land here, you know. That land is held by deed number 7747. Registered, and I have the document, registered, signed, on the 6th of May 1983. That's the deed, which is the ownership document for the land in the name of Dr. Simeon Daniel. And that deed is for 25 acres plus or minus. I don't know if the thing is good enough to pick this up. That's the land, 25 acres plus or minus. The documents are public documents. Now, what I find interesting, let me go back to the will. Dr. Hodge is saying to the people of Nevis that these executors, didn't say she was one, signed an agreement to sell the land. And then she said she has no land over there. Again, creating distance between herself and the transaction. But after she mentioned the will, I said, well, the will is a public document, so I decided to go and look at it. And here's the paragraph of the will, ladies and gentlemen. And this speaks to the dishonesty of the leader of NRP. In the will, this is what her father said. I direct that my 25 acres at Cox Heath Estate, these are the lands we're talking about. I direct that my 25 acres at Cox Heath Estate be sold. And after paying expenses, the proceeds should be divided accordingly. The value of 5 acres each to Janice Hodge. I want to mention the other beneficiaries. They're not relevant to the discussion. So, this is the will. Probated on the 12th of December 2012, which appoints Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge as executor of her father's estate, and then goes on to say, sell the land. But when the 25 acres is sold, 5 acres of that is for Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. Now, how in good conscience could Dr. Hodge come to the people of Nevis to tell us that she has no land over there and she sold no land over there? And that is why in my speech I said that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge pocketed money, because in her own statement she said that this agreement was entered into since last year. And she therefore knows that as the executor, she signed to sell the land and would have pocketed whatever money, whether she has been paid in piece or in full, whether she has had a deposit or the full price, it really does not matter. She has pocketed the money. So I am asking myself and asking you, the public, how could someone aspiring to lead this island come to you in a national address, forget to tell you that she's an executor of the very estate that she's talking about, and forget most importantly to tell you that she's a beneficiary of the land that is being sold? Let me read it again into the record. They said they want receipts. I have receipts. I direct, that's what the will says, that my 25 acres at Cox Heath Estate be sold, and after paying expenses, the proceeds should be divided accordingly. The value of 5 acres to Janice Hodge. Therefore, 1/5. 5 out of 25 is 1/5. 1/5 of that is going straight into Janice Daniel Hodge's pocket. She said she's going to hire a lawyer. Let the lawyer come. Let the lawyer come, because these are public documents. Anyone out there listening to me, take a $5 stamp tomorrow, go to the probate registry, and you can get a copy of these documents for yourself. They're public documents. This is the dishonesty and the hypocrisy that I have been talking about. Now, I am cognizant, because I've spoken to a few people who have sold lands over there, and I will tell you that people are selling at different variations based on where the land is. But the average price that people are selling over there for is between $5 and $6 a square foot. Now, 25 acres at between $5 and $6 a square foot, if I'm just going to use rough mathematics, works out at about $6 million. What is 1/5 of $6 million? $1.2 million. I have the Honorable Troy Lywood has just arrived. He's here with me. He has a calculator. What is 1/5?
1.2.
$1.2 million. It could be a little more. But based on just the minimum that I'm told by some persons who have sold their lands in the area, that is the amount that will be pocketed by Dr. Daniel Hodge. She said, not me, that if it is proved that she is benefiting, she will resign. I don't care whether she resigns or not. Her fate lies with the people of St. James. But what I care about is people who come to us with dishonesty. Because what bothers me is she then sought to accuse me of maligning her and defaming her and all manner of things. I'm a liar, I'm this. I may be many things, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm not a liar. And if I ever come and I tell you 1 + 1 is equal to 2, it's because I have my receipts. I don't go anywhere without receipts. I took these out of the grip earlier. You all know I have a grip. Well, I have a few. I have them in different places in case anybody thief one. And I took them out of the grip earlier because she introduced her father. She introduced her father's will. She said the executors entered into agreement to sell the land, but forgot to tell you that she is an executor. Forgot to tell you that as the executor, she signed the document to sell. And most egregiously, forgot to tell you that under the same will that she referred to, the father did say to sell, but she is going to get the benefit of 5 acres, 1/5 of the 25 acres. And based, as I said, on my rudimentary math, it could be more. At least $1.2 million will be in her pocket. Now, I don't begrudge Dr. Daniel Hodge. I'm sure many of us wish that we had some lands in the area that we too could turn into cash, because nothing is happening over there. And so if we could find land over there to sell and use that to educate our children, to improve our home, maybe even to build a little home. If we have a home ready to build a second one and put it out to rent, most of us would say, listen, am I going to wait for another 75 years for some development on the South Coast, or would I go ahead and do this? Others who are in a better position may say, I don't need to sell my land. But that is their choice. That is their right. And I just wanted tonight at the top of the show to just put those facts to the people and say to the people of Nevis that when this premier, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, speaks, I always speak from a position of fact. That is why when I was in Gingerland, Hanley's Road, I said I will not engage in any rumor-mongering. I am not about any hypothetical. I deal with fact. And I am asking the leader of the NRP, come clean with the people of Nevis. Stop the dishonesty. You cannot on the one hand say to the people that somehow selling land is wrong. Turn around, blame the government, when you have since last year since last year, signed off the sale and collected. You cannot do that. It is called hypocrisy. It is called dishonesty. And if you have a lawyer, there are a lot of them in town, that you want to find to come for me, bring them. And I hope when you bring them, you have costs to pay the court. Because I'm not making any joke nowadays with my costs. You could ask my opponent in Brownhill. She's still paying me. I am getting very serious now because I do not like the fact that this dishonesty is out there and good people's names are being sullied with lies, distortions, and misleading information. So we'll wait to see whether she resigns as she says she would. Now that we are clear that when this 25 acres of land is sold, as it has been, because she admits in her speech that since last year, the executors, she not says she, the executors signed the purchase and sale. But she forgot to tell you that she is a beneficiary of that sale. I will leave that there because I don't want the show to be focused on that. But all day, all night, people are saying, if I have receipts to bring them, well, I've now brought the receipts. And don't take my word for it. Take $5. Go to the probate registry tomorrow and ask to see that particular document for yourself. Read it for yourself. It's not a long document. And I just want to say that I am not mentioning any other members of the family. They're not relevant. God bless all of them. She, on the 19th of August, introduced her father's estate publicly. She injected her father's will into this debate, and she sought to use it to deflect her own involvement in the sale of lands on the South Coast and her own benefit. Somebody sent me something this morning. You know what it said? This is reminiscent of somebody who eat until their belly full. And when they done belch, because the belly full, they say kill the cook. Kill the cook, because my belly done full. So if the cook dead now, that don't have nothing to do with me. Where's the conscience for the rest of Nevis and the other people of Nevis? If you have a right to sell your land, then others must equally have that right. Respect people. I know that other bigwigs in NRP sold their land. I am not going to get into who. But I'm aware just yesterday I was at Old House. I ran into a fellow. He said he saw one of them and he didn't solicit any information. The chap came over to him and said, boy, I sell my land over there and I collect over 2 million. He said he didn't ask the man anything. The man volunteered. Big wigs inside NRP, yet they're out there lambasting in the government, which has not sold 1 square inch of land to anyone. I have with me the Honorable Troy Lai, but I asked Troy was busy, but I asked him please to come because I wasn't sure my voice would withstand 2 hours. So the Honorable Troy Lai is here to join me. Troy, you have heard and you have seen the receipts.
Good night, Mark. Of course, I'm always happy to be here on Van Radio. Pleasant good night to all of you who are listening from wherever in the world you are listening. We want to thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to be here on the Mark. Of course, we know over the past few days there's been quite a lot of hullabaloo about the south coast of Nevis. And Mark, I am one who knows the south coast very well, having grown up raising animals and so on the south coast. I would think I know it. I know the area better than most persons on Nevis. The back of Saddle Hill, spend a lot of time there. And for me, I think it would be good, perhaps in my lifetime, to see some development come to that part of Nevis, to see us as Nevisians get some benefit out of that sector of the island. And so if we could see some development come there, and it's going to be development that is going to be to the benefit of all of us here as Nevisians, I don't see why this should be a big problem for us. In listening to the little clip from the leader of the NRP, when she spoke about, selling of the property that belonged to her late father, she said at the time she didn't see a problem with selling the land, and rightfully so. She didn't see a problem at that time, and I don't see a problem now that she sold the land. I think the issue that is at hand here now is the hypocrisy, Mark, that it's okay for them to sell, but now that they're understanding that something is going to be happening there, some form of development is going to be coming, and the rest of Nevis is going to have an opportunity to benefit, it's a problem. It's a problem because Nevisians are going to benefit, and true to form, whenever Nevisians are going to benefit, the NRP is always up in arms. And you know what? CCM, we are the ones who are, out there trying to bring that benefit for the people of Nevis. And if a good thing happens under CCM, then the NRP doesn't feel good about it. And it's the same thing that they're trying to do with every project. If you look at the airport project, I mean, we had about 10 persons over there by the airport trying to protest the development of the airport. The thing is that nobody was bothering with them. In this case, though, they have gone out and they have tried to drum up this thing that the government is going to come after people's land, that the government is going to forcefully acquire people's land, and that the government has all this land on the South Coast that the government is selling. And what could be further from the truth? And to hear this thing going around every single day. I've had people come to me and question me about, well, what's going on the South Coast. And after you sit with someone privately and you explain to them, that there's a developer that has an idea that they want to come and they want to create some development that could be good for Nevis in the short term and better for Nevisians in the long term. And you explain the thing to people, and people say, oh, that's what's happening, but that's not the idea that I was getting. I heard that they were taking all of the land from Nevis people and that the land will no longer be accessible to Nevisians and all of that. And so there's a whole lot of fear-mongering and rumor-mongering that's going on, a whole lot of fanaticism that's going on. And I guess the NRP, they really haven't had much issues in recent time, and so this is something that I guess they feel they could grab on to.
But Troy, this is my concern. We are in government and we were elected into government to serve the people of Nevis. Part of that is to develop the island. We have an opportunity on the table to develop a part of Nevis that is currently completely undeveloped. If some of you want to call it wasteland, because the land is not even good for any form of agriculture. Now, the NRP has been trumpeting that there has been no substantial investment in the country. They said the last big investment that came was the Four Seasons. This investment promises to be the Four Seasons plus. Tonight I had a conversation, and it was revealed to me that these developers are seeking to do something extraordinary on the South Coast. They have this sustainable zone idea in mind. It will be the first of its kind in the world, combining prosperity with sustainability. What is important for me, Troy, is that it will provide opportunities for Nevisians. Each year, you're Minister of Education, you know how many students are graduating. Each year, we know how many students are going away to study. Every year, we lose people because they go to America, they go to England, they go to Canada, and they stay because many of them say there is not enough opportunity in Nevis for them. We know with the hostility that some of the countries in the world now have to immigrants, including the United States, that there are many of our people who may want the opportunity to come home. Remember that a lot of Nevisians left in the 60s, 70s, 80s, because they were looking for what? Opportunity. Nivisions built Bermuda. Nivisions built the U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands, St. Martin. They contributed significantly to the prosperity that those territories have had. And we are now saying to Nivisions, we want to create the kind of momentum in terms of the economy here, where you can come home. If you're out there and you're an accountant, you're a hotel manager, you're a chef, you're a landscaping expert, you're a doctor, that you can come home because there are opportunities here for you. So when I hear the chatter, I said, well, is it that people don't want the island to progress? Because it's the same people who will turn around and say to us as a government, you all have not brought anything substantial to Nevis. Now, the major economic benefits. These developers are talking about over $1 billion in investment. I want to say it again. Over $1 billion in investment. Now, where's that money going to go, Troy? This afternoon, I was at MEMS, and I was there with a good friend of mine who has heavy equipment. He told me he can't wait. If you're a trucker, if you're a heavy equipment operator, if you're selling concrete, if you're TDC or Hosfords, selling building materials, the construction sector, because you're now talking about people putting in roads, bridges maybe, various infrastructure, water mains. All of this is happening in an area that is currently barren. So they're saying that the investment will be over $1 billion, and they're saying that they're going to create thousands of jobs. Jobs during construction and jobs afterwards. Somebody said to me, oh, everybody going to just go in there as maid and gardener. And I said, why is that? What about the accountants, the managers? The people who are going to go in there to work in security. The people who are experts in IT. The possibilities are endless for us as a small island. We have heard the criticism leveled at us, Troy, that Nivisions are going over to St. Kitts to work at Park Hyatt and to look for work. I am old enough to know that when Four Seasons opened, many Kittitians were coming to Nevis and looking for work, and some still do. But the possibility now of our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts who want to find meaningful employment coming to Nevis and finding that employment. The economic expansion that we're looking at. High quality work, good jobs right here on the island of Nevis. And then the bit about it is that you know, Troy, because every Wednesday when we sit in cabinet, what leads to the most argument and the most discussion is money. Education needs to fix the schools. Education needs to do this. Health. We have a hospital we need to finish. We have health centers that need refurbishing and new ones built. We need to provide better social safety nets. When Minister Brand come, he said you want the road. Nivision said they want the road up Camps though. Westbury. It requires money. And we all know that our tax base is very, very thin because we're only 13,000 people. You take out the children, you take out the elderly, you take out those who are not working or those who can't work. You have a very small number of people who are actually paying taxes and trying to help in terms of this economy. So that is our reality here. We have an opportunity based on this type of development to generate hundreds of millions of dollars for the government. Not for Mark Brantley, not for Troy Libert, for the government. Because whichever government is in, you know, and that is the irony, you know, Troy. You know, NRP boasts and said they brought Four Seasons. But in the first election, after Four Seasons opened, the CCM won the election.
Yes.
And so, all those people who were working on the jobs and the economic expansion that occurred, the CCM was in office. So I am saying to my brothers and sisters in the NRP, if you want to win an election, go out and fight the election. But why fight development? Because if you were by some miracle to get into office, you need the same developments, you need the employment and the economic expansion to grow the economy. You need to grow. We need our people employed. We are talking about improving the environment over there. I don't know how the last time you went over on the south coast, but the erosion over there is terrible. Lands are just falling into the sea. These fellas are saying, these investors are saying, listen, we want to restore. We want to create something very special over there. Something that is sustainable. Something that is consistent with good environmental stewardship. All of these are preconditions. In fact, I have undertaken to have a series of town hall meetings, and I'm going to start to share the information, not from me, but from the developers, because some of the preconditions, for example, condition number 1, and I believe it's section 5 of the legislation, is that they must show an economic impact report from a reputable firm. And they have produced that, showing number of jobs, GDP growth, and all of this that this development will bring. We are talking about that whole area, Saddle Hill, and those vacant lands being restored and revitalized. Turning unused land into a green, low-rise community. Shops, restaurants, cultural spaces. They're talking about the possibility of a marina. All of these will create opportunities for local businesses and tourism. So suppose they want supermarkets inside the zone. Doesn't that create opportunities for Rams and Best Buy? And who else we have? Value Mart and even others.
Even for new persons
New
who want to
persons
come
going
into
in.
the business.
They're talking about international hotel brands. They say that what they want is branded communities within the zone. So just like at Four Seasons, you have different communities. You have Palm Grove. You have I don't even know what the others are called. Mahogany Hill and things like that. They're saying they want, but those communities. So one community. And when I spoke to the developers say they're speaking to the top 10 hotel brands in the world. And over the life of this project, they want ultimately to create a minimum of 3 resort communities within that zone. So again, I want our people to imagine Four Seasons, but something much larger investment than Four Seasons, the luxury that Four Seasons bring. I want every worker out there, every family that has made $1 at Four Seasons to consider, every taxi man, every individual who benefits from Four Seasons to consider what a project like Four Seasons, but larger in scale, would do for Nevis, because we know how Four Seasons has transformed Nevis, Troy. They have said, and I have said very clearly, the beaches, coastlines, fishing grounds, they remain open and accessible to the public by law. All this fear-mongering and nonsense that people are being told, they remain available. The project is a project that is designed to assist us in moving to the next level in terms of development. I have said that we need a game changer. And this is exactly what we are seeking to do. So I definitely in the next few weeks will be talking more about this. We'll be talking about the job creation. And we'll be talking about the controls. Somebody said to me, I believe it was last night, I happened to call into Webo's Let's Talk show. And one of Webo's panelists is on here saying to the public that these people are going to create a sovereign state. Basically, they're going to have their own country over on the South Coast. I asked the gentleman, where are you getting that from? He said, it's in the law. I said, all right, could you read it for me and for the public? For the next half hour, he fumbled, he wumbled, and then he said he gave up. There is no such thing, no such provision. And therein lies the dilemma that we have, where educated people, sensible people, are more concerned about trying to fool everybody than having a discussion on the merits and determining, is this a good project for the island or not? That's the debate that I want to have. Not who sell land and who buy land and who all of that, because at the end of the day, while land is a critical resource, we have shown with the South Coast that there are people out there who have 100 acres of land. But if they don't have the resources to develop that land, Troy, then what is the point? The land is just going to lie there from generation to generation to generation.
It has been there, and I mean, we had some goat and so on being raised in that area, but if you really look at it, now we have the opportunity to have, 3 resort communities over there in an area that we could not develop. The amount of money it would take to put in the roads and the other type of infrastructure that they would need over there. I mean, seriously, it's a godsend that we could have a developer who wants to come and develop not just a part of that area, but the entirety of that area, and people have to look at the positive part of this. I understand that change, any type of change, is going to be difficult, but when we look at the possibility of the benefits, the possibility of jobs that we would have for over the next 10, 15, 20 years, young people coming out of school, and they don't have to wonder where jobs are going to be coming from. As a matter of fact, if this project is to come off in the way that it's looking to come off, we are going to be needing people in Nevis.
But that is why I say,
Troy, don't have to come into Nevis.
And that's why I say we have the opportunity now for some of our people in St. Martin, in VI, US and thing in Anguilla, Tortola, New York, to come home. A lot of our people right now in America are not entirely comfortable, They have a chance to come home. I have been advocating. I gave a speech in Canada recently at the NEVCAN event, and I said one of the things that I want to see is second and third generation Nevisians born out there to start to take an interest here. We know we have a very talented, educated cadre of Nevisians overseas. And if they can see they can come here for good paying jobs, where they go eat fresh mango and eat fresh fish and do all of that, a lot of our people will choose to come home. And that is the other aspect of this, because I am tired of seeing our young people leave here, go away to study, and decide that they're going to stay abroad. When we need their energy, we need them here in order to help us. And then don't forget Kittitian brothers and sisters, because they too can find meaningful work. We are talking about building the country in a very significant way. And the difficulty that I'm having, Troy, is that every time we start to talk about development, I said to somebody when we were doing the Mondo track, the NRP had halls of protest. We put in something next to the dump and all the flies and all kinds of manner of evil, they said. Look at the Mondo track out there and how it has served the athletes and the young people, and even some of the older ones who go there and walk at mornings and at evenings.
People are there every morning and every night.
Every day, using that facility. With the contribution to health and to wellness and to fitness, we can't even calculate it. When we're doing the holy water taxi, oh, that was another. And they now use that facility more than us. When we announced that we were going to do the airport, and we had a gentleman called Mr. Patrick Drahi who was partnering with us, you know what they say? We sell the airport to a white man. And no other than Janice Daniel Hodge led 6 people out there in the hot sun, said she having a massive protest against the development of the airport. These are what we're dealing with in Nevis. And that is the difficulty, because every time they hear about some development, you can be assured that they're going to go on the rampage and on the attack. Rather than letting us sit around as sensible people and say, how can we make it better? How can we ensure that there's safeguards?
They find a problem with every single thing. Mark, you remember when we were driving to the land and we saw the for sale sign on the blue house there by the holy water taxi, and I think I jumped out of the vehicle and took a picture, and then you called the person to get the price on the property, and we got going with the holy water taxi pier. And for a while we had the tents outside, and people had to go down and sit under the tent and so on, and the people in the NRP would say, oh, this is what they brought, people have to sit down outside on the tent. The construction went on under the building. The building is done now. You're not hearing any talk about tents anymore. But the one thing they didn't do, they didn't come out and say, well, you guys did a good job, and this is something that is good for Nevis and Nevisians. Only recently, I traveled over to St. Kitts, and I happened to be in the company of a few foreign persons. They were on Nevis, they went over to St. Kitts with us, and we were coming back late in the night from the cricket. And one of the persons said that it's a stark difference when you leave from Nevis and when you're leaving from St. Kitts. And the person also said to me that they would have expected that St. Kitts would have been the more built-up area. But here on Nevis, we have invested in the whole water taxi. all of the water taxis are owned by Nivisions. I've heard you
Yes.
say that on more than one
Absolutely.
occasion, Mark. And so we here on Nevis have invested in the facilities to support our water taxi providers and also to support our people who are using that facility more than anybody else. And so that is what we have been doing as a government.
And Troy, when I go over there, and I see the young people, I saw a young man the other day. He used to be a sort of assistant. I don't know the proper name for the guy who's working on the mate. And I see him now as a captain. And he said, man, he went and he did his certification. And you see, I see even a young lady over there as a captain. Opportunities. People are coming over from St. Kitts, working with the water taxi operators, like you say, 100% Nivision owned. And when we start to invest in them, the same thing happened. The attacks and the accusations and the laugh and the tent, because they don't understand development takes time. And when we have the opportunity, as we have now, for somebody who's serious, because nobody could be paying out all these monies to secure lands, secure options on lands, secure agreements, pay deposits, if they're not serious. And when one of them can boast to somebody, meet them on the road, that he sold his land and he collecting over $2 million, right? It tells you that people are transforming that land that has stayed there for over 100 years, with nothing on it, into cash that they can now do and use for whatever reason.
You know, Mark, we are hearing the fanaticism, but there are some persons in Nevis, they're very vocal. Everything they are vocal about and they want to make an issue about. But in talking about this issue, somebody came to me, very quietly, and they were asking me some questions about the issue and so on. And, when we were almost to the end of the conversation, the person said to me, boy, Troy, you all have to think about it this way. Anything good that NRPC coming from CCM, they're not going to like it. They're not going to like it. NRPC that this project could be a game changer for Nevis and a game changer for Nivisions. And a project like this coming to Nevis under CCM would mean that NRP's prospects for getting into government would be very, very bleak. And all that they're thinking about is getting into government. Not getting into government to do anything for the people of Nevis. Getting into government to serve their own selfish ends. That is what they're thinking about. And that is what the person said to me. The person said, we're listening to them and we're watching them, but we know what they are about. They are only about serving themselves. They are only about looking to see what is in their own best interest. So it's okay for them to sell the land
And
quietly,
collect their money.
collect the money quietly. They grab theirs. Okay, we make ours now. Let's make trouble now. Let's make noise.
But
Let's tell everybody else. Don't sell.
But you realize they're making noise after they collect.
After.
After they collect.
Yeah.
Right? Your belly full, so kill the cook.
Kill the cook.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it any better. Kill the cook.
All right. It is 9 o'clock, and we decided we will open the phones and take some calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. We're hoping that we can have some reasoned debate. If there are questions, you have concerns, we're here because this is not quite a town hall meeting, but it does give you an opportunity from the relative anonymity of your home to pick up your phone and call and share your views. Troy, while we wait for the phones to ring, again, 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. I come back to the position about development and what it is, as government, you are charged to do. And the phone is ringing, so let's see if we can take this call and then we come back to the discussion. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hi, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening. I just have maybe one or two questions or a two-part question.
Sure.
So I was listening to your opening statements when you made mention of the will from Dr. Daniel, the late Simeon Daniel, and spoke about the executors and so on. So I just trying to seek some clarification to get a better understanding. So You read from the will, which outlines, let me use the word, an intention for his children or executors, I stand to be corrected, to receive land. And that land is 25 acres.
Yes.
And each sibling, you're saying, is going to receive or should receive 5 acres of land.
I did not say that. I said Janice Daniel Hodge is entitled. I'm not dealing with any other sibling because they're not relevant to this conversation.
Okay, so let's focus on,
Yes.
So Janice Daniel Hodge, which is the daughter of Simeon Daniel.
Yes.
Right. But a will is not a proof of title. So my question is, why didn't you instead produce the official deed or land registry, whatever you want to call it, entry, if you are claiming or if you're saying that Janice Daniel Hodge owns land in the area? So I understand what you said.
So caller, hold a moment.
Hold on. Let me just finish it.
Okay, go ahead.
I understand what you've said earlier in the sense that here is a will. I have 25 acres of land, and 5 acres would go to Janice Daniel, etc., etc., etc. What I'm asking is, why didn't you produce the official deed to substantiate or to clarify that Janice indeed owns land instead of a will that is merely an intention?
All right, so
I'll listen after you for 5 acres.
All right, no problem. Caller, you see, this is the kind of smartness that people are engaged in. But the people of Nevis are not going to be fooled. The lands in that area were purchased back in, what the documents say? Because I have the deed. 1983 by Dr. Daniel. They're his lands. The relevance is not who purchased them or whose name is on the deed. What is relevant is that Dr. Daniel of blessed memory has passed on. And in passing on, he has appointed 2 executors, one of whom is Janice Daniel Hodge. And that has gone to the court. And the court on the 6th of December 2012 approved Dr. Daniel Hodge as an executor. What an executor means, caller, is that that is the person who is now in charge of the estate. Remember that Dr. Daniel has passed. So she is now, along with her co-executor, in charge of the estate. And she, therefore, would have signed the agreement to sell the land. And that is where the dishonesty is coming in, because when she made her public statement, she never told you or me that she was an executor. She said her father gave instructions for the land to be sold, and the executors signed the agreement to sell. Well, who are the executors? How could she forget that she was one? And that she signed the document to sell? This is since last year.
The executors, as if she was talking about
somebody else. But that is the dishonesty. Then, caller, you have to now look at who the beneficiaries are. The beneficiaries are listed in the document, and she is the beneficiary of 5 acres of the land. What that means, therefore, let me break it down, is that when the monies from these lands are paid, in part, in full, in whole, however you want to call it, she is going to walk away with the equivalent of 5 acres worth of money for her personally. Well, if that is the case, how can any reasonable person, far less somebody who comes to the public and say, I want you to repose your trust and confidence in me? Because this is public life. Let us be open and transparent about what we're doing here. We all know that the standards that apply to people in public life must be higher. So how is it she forgot to tell us when she made her speech, you know, I am the executor who signed the document. I'm the executor named in the will, rather than simply saying the executors as if it's some third party. And how could she forget to tell us that when the monies I receive from the sale, I will get 1/5 of the money. Well, caller, I don't know that you want to seem to stand on whether what document is available and what document is not available. I'm telling you what the facts are. And an executor of an estate is legally the representative of the estate. The deceased person is no more. And so the executor steps into the shoes, and all actions in relation to that estate. In fact, I don't know if they have already signed the transfer, but they've certainly already signed the agreement to sell and collected money. So her signature will appear again if it has not already appeared. And my point is that she has, and I want to put in a record, Dr. Hodge has every right to benefit from her father's estate. She has every right to sell. But don't sell yours, collect your money, and then you start to castigate other people. That cannot be right. There's a word for that. It's called hypocrisy. Let's go back to the phones and see if anybody else wants to talk to us. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Brantley. How are you?
I am doing okay, thank you.
I just have a few questions for you. So the first one is, could you clarify in lay terms what the SSD bill allows for that the law did not allow for before?
Yes. That's your only question?
No, I have 3 more.
Okay, well, you want to stay on the line?
Yeah, I'll stand on line.
Okay, so what the Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Act does, it creates a framework to allow developers to come in and have a specific geographic area determined to be a special sustainable zone. Under Section 4 of that legislation, these zones can be declared in St. Kitts or they can be declared in Nevis. If they're declared in St. Kitts, it is for the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. If they're declared in Nevis, it is for the Nevis Island Administration. There are a number of checks and balances. So, no zone can be declared and confirmed until it goes to Parliament. In St. Kitts, it must go to the National Parliament, and in Nevis, it must go to the Nevis Island Assembly. And the agreement creating the zone, that is the agreement between government and the developer, has to go to the Parliament for ratification. It also sets out the objectives at Section 3 of the Act, and it's to promote sustainable development, enable the establishment of these zones, attract financially and technically qualified zone developers, enhance the region, outline principles for zone, for rules within the zone, promote protection of investments, and it goes on. And the law is not long. It's about nine pages. So I encourage anybody to go online and find it and read it for themselves. What I find, though, is interesting is that there are conditions precedent to development agreements. And I think that's relevant because it sets out, again, a level of control. Anybody coming into a zone must present an economic analysis by a reputable economic advisory professional firm or institution forecasting that the proposed zone is likely to generate long-term economic opportunities, create permanent employment, attract foreign and domestic investment, and generate revenue for the benefit of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. They must present plans which show that it's designed for comfort, luxury, and sustainability, that they have access, they're going to supply their own clean and safe water, renewable energy, minimize waste, and be congruent with the climate and with the environment. It then goes on to provide at Section 9 that the NIA, through the Premier, can appoint an oversight body for any zone in Nevis, which will monitor the zone developer and or any development agreement, and the Prime Minister can do the same in St. Kitts. So all this short bit of legislation does, it empowers government to create these zones if developers come that meet the conditions. I've given you a short précis, but I invite you to read the legislation yourself and or you can go on YouTube and look at the debate that we had in the National Parliament on this legislation on August 11th.
Okay, thanks for that answer. So the second question,
Sure.
Part 3, number 4, says the Prime Minister may enter into development agreements, but I don't see a special sentence. Well, this is the copy that I have. I don't know if it's been updated.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't see a special designation for the Premier. Could you explain why?
What it says at section 4, and I have the legislation, that the Prime Minister can enter because the nature of these zones, they require some federal involvement, because the NIA, for example, doesn't have exclusive control over some aspects. If you're talking about customs, for example, Nevis doesn't have any control over that. If you're talking about some aspects of the marine environment, Nevis, that is the NIA, doesn't have control over that. There are some aspects that are federal in nature. So the scheme of the legislation under section 4 is that the Prime Minister may enter into these agreements with approval of Cabinet in St. Kitts. But where it comes to the island of Nevis, and I'm reading, the Prime Minister shall consult with the Nevis Island Administration before entering into any such agreement, and should the NIA approve, the NIA shall be party to the agreement. And then it goes on to say no agreement can be entered into without the prior approval of the NIA. So the control in terms of Nevis remains with the Nevis Island Administration. And it goes on, as I pointed out, at section 9 to say that at section 9, the Premier has the authority to appoint a monitoring body for any zone that is created on the island of Nevis. So those are the controls that are in place for Nevis to ensure that any development in Nevis of this kind will vest with the NIA.
Okay, thanks for that answer. My third question is, you said last night on Let's Talk that the acreage has been removed from the bill. So, for example, it said it shouldn't be any less than 500 acres in Nevis and 750 acres in St. Kitts.
Yes.
Are there any other changes to the bill? How can we access the updated bill?
The updated bill should be online, but to be honest, my number is 662-6003. If you send me a WhatsApp message to that number, I can WhatsApp you the updated bill. Okay? But it should be available online, and that was the only change that was made. That was a proposed section 4.3, and that was removed.
Okay. Why weren't there any maximums placed in the bill?
Well, the answer that we got from St. Kitts, bearing in mind that this was legislation that was intended to set out a framework for both St. Kitts and Nevis, is that they had not had a discussion at their cabinet about a maximum. So they decided that it was better to leave it out and then come back to it at a later date if necessary.
Do you think that it's necessary to come back to it, especially for Nevis?
I think it would be useful because we don't want a multiplicity of these zones. And so for me, if you indicated that there was a substantive area, and so people say somebody with a half acre of land or an acre of land would not be able to come and say they want to develop a sustainable zone on that land. So I think if you have a large acreage, you know that you're really only going to have maybe one of those, maybe two could exist on the island of Nevis. And that was my thinking, but as I said, the federal government said they had not had the chance to discuss it in their cabinet, and so they wanted to remove that. So that was section 4.3, which did not make it into the final bill.
I see. Okay, well, that makes sense, because when I heard you say 2,000 acres last night, I thought, wow, that's about 10% of Nevis, because Nevis is about 23,000 acres. So, yeah, I think that would be important to go back to as well. My last question is, would the current proposal be accessible to the general public? Because you said you're going to be going out to, the different areas to have
town halls,
meetings, town halls.
Yes. So
it would be good to have some information for the people to come and have an educated discussion with you as well.
Well, clearly it makes no sense to have a town hall unless you have information available. So we intend, of course, to have these sessions to make information available. And as I said, one of the important safeguards is that no agreement can come into effect without it going to the Parliament. And there's no place more public than the Parliament. So the opposition, members who are interested, members of the public, this has to go to Parliament if any zone is going to be created. Those are the safeguards in the legislation. So even if the Cabinet were to say, yeah, it still has to go to Parliament and face public ventilation in the Parliament. But we have gone further and say that on Nevis, we definitely intend to have some town hall discussions. And we will be sharing information in terms of what is proposed with the general public. We're not doing anything here in any secret. We want our people to understand what is proposed and therefore inform us as to whether we go forward or not.
Perfect. Is it possible to know the name of the developer for
The developer, I am not certain what name the developer is going to go under, but I know that they're using the name of South Nevis Limited or Nevis South Limited, something like that. It's a company, a local company. I think it's South Nevis Limited. That's
a
the
local
company
by a citizen, correct?
I'm sorry?
A local company run by a citizen?
Yes, the person has advised that they have Sinkis Nevis citizenship, yes.
I see. And what is their name?
The gentleman who we have been dealing with is a gentleman named Olivier Jansen, Jansen. He's been the primary person that we've been dealing with, but he has a very large team running to probably 60 or 70 people working with him.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for your answers tonight.
You're most welcome, and thank you for your calls. I appreciate it very much, and I hope that you'll come out to the town halls when we do have them.
Okay, thanks for
All
the
right.
invitation.
We're
Bye.
sticking with the phones and taking some more calls. Let's go back to the phone. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Caller, are you there?
Yes, good evening. Are you hearing?
Yes, I'm hearing you now, loud and clear.
Okay, yes. I just wanted to follow up on something you said earlier. I have one question, and then if you could indulge me for a bit. Is an executor the owner of land, or does an executor own land?
The executor is the owner for all practical purposes, because the executor is the only person who can sell or alienate or lease or do anything with that land.
So you're saying the executor. So if I become an executor
Yes.
for the will of a relative of mine,
Yes.
and they leave a piece of land in Jessups,
Yes.
you are saying that I automatically become the owner of that land?
Once you have submitted that will for probate and you are approved by the court, you become the legal representative of the estate.
Okay.
So, for example, hold on. If that land were to be sold, you would have to sign the document to sell the land. However, if under the will, using your example, you are also named in the will as the person who benefits from the land in Jessups, then you have a convergence and you become the owner, because you are both executor and beneficiary. So in that case, you will simply transfer the land to yourself.
Okay. So I think we are kind of on the same page, because my understanding is an executor is like the manager of someone's property after they die.
No.
And their job is to carry out the will.
No, not the manager. Because as I said, it is more than that. It is somebody who has been approved by the court, who steps into the shoes of the deceased person for anything to do with their estate. Right?
Okay.
So if for example, the deceased person has a bank account, once you get probate, the executor will go into the bank, here's the probate, and they can move that money out of the account. They can deal with the money in accordance with the will.
Okay. Let me ask one last question, but
Sure.
I want to preface it first with a quick statement. So, my understanding, based off of what you just stated, is that I would only become the legal owner when the executor applies for probate, right, which is permission from the court to settle the estate. And if the land is officially transferred in my name at the land registry. Now, based off of what you said earlier, are you saying that Janice Daniel Hodge has applied for probate, permission from the court, and are you saying that the land has
So
been
the answer to
Hold on.
you're asking me multiple questions. So let me answer them. The first question, the answer is yes.
I listen to you. Please, I beg you, Mr. Premier, listen to me. The second part of the question.
Well, I'm answering the
are
first
you
part. You
saying
don't want to
that
hear the first part.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
The second part is, are you saying that the land has been officially transferred in Janice Daniel's name at the land registry?
Okay.
I'll listen after.
All right. So you asked me a two-part question. Part one, if you were listening earlier, I will tell you, on the 6th of December 2012, Janice Daniel Hodge was approved as an executive of the estate. So clearly she applied, and the court approved her. So she is one of two who are in charge of the estate. The question now, has any Janice Daniel Hodge transferred the land into her name? That is what you call a red herring, because she's in control of the land as the legal representative. Nobody can sell that land, lease that land, do anything with that land unless she signs. She has signed. But where the sting of this is that this proceeds of the sale under the will, she is now going to get 5 acres of that into her pocket. That is really where the thing lies. And as I said, she has every right, just as anybody over there with land has every right. But do not come and make a speech to us and tell us that your father, because again, she's the one who introduced her father into this whole debate. Her father had land over there. There was a will. The father said to sell. And the executors sold. And she did not sell anything because she didn't own any land. That is being dishonest, caller, because that is not giving you or I the full story. The full story is that she is an executor approved by the court. She would have been the one to sign the documents for the sale, and she, under the will, is going to get 1/5 of the proceeds personally. So I hear all the semantics and the running around, but let us face it, we understand what is going on here, and my point is that there was nothing wrong with Dr. Hodge coming to the public and just being honest. My father left some land and I'm going to benefit from it, and we decide to sell, and then discuss the merits of the project. But in the effort to lambaste the government, lambaste me personally, me not got no land over there. I didn't sell any land. I don't own any land in that area. But in an effort to get at the government and be political, she decided to fool you, fool me, and unfortunately it looks like she fooled a lot of unhappy people. So that is why, caller, you're not running around asking about legal transfer and legal document, and you're getting into some nice legalese, as I would call it. But it doesn't change the facts that she was approved by the court as an executor, and as an executor, she steps into the shoes of her father in control of this land. She's the only one, together with her colleague, executor, who could sign. She has signed, she has collected, and under the will, 1/5 will go to her, into her pocket, to do as she wishes. Those are the facts. Let's go back to the phones again and try. Caller, you're on the mark.
Hello, good night.
Good night to you.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, Chai?
How are you, sir?
I'm okay. But you notice you said earlier, right, that some of these land that you're talking about is in Coxseat?
Yes, these lands are in Coxseat, yes.
Well, you know where I am from Coxseat.
The Cox and Coxseat are different, you know.
It's slightly different, but why I say that is that most of the old people who lived in Cox would have occupied a lot of those lands long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I need to go look up to see if my grandparent or great-grandparent had some of them land. See if that is the case, let me go get them sell out. Because all sorts of people calling and talking about these lands, but a lot of people, well, of course, and if you have every right to, but I feel like somebody like me know much more about those lands than most people. So I said earlier he know about them too, and I know that too, but I know about them donkey years even before Chai.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
If you own land in that area,
I wish we godfather that's on down the go ahead.
okay. But if let's just say, if you own land in that area,
Mm-hmm.
would you think that you should have the right to sell or not to sell the land as you wish?
Well, me don't understand the question, because you say if I own land, I have every right to sell or not to sell.
Okay.
And nobody could force me to sell it or not to sell it if once I own it.
Okay. Because, because you see, that is my difficulty with this debate that the opposition has started in the country. They are basically saying the government is selling out Nevis. And I'm saying, well, how could the government be selling Giro land?
Well, let me ask a question.
Yes.
So the government have land in those areas?
The government is actually, now we're going through an exercise where we're trying to figure out if the government in fact has land over there. We have a surveyor looking at it first, and the reason for
look at his grandfather.
Hold on there. The reason for that is the piece of land that we knew that the government has, which was 238 acres.
Uh-huh.
That land was under the same NRP swapped to National Bank for debt.
Oh.
So that is part of the land that went poof.
Oh, well, anyway.
Right? So I'm just sharing that because that is also important part of the narrative.
Yeah, anyway, I know a lot about those lands. Once you talk about Kaksi, days where I travel almost every day, go to Bay and all those things, so... Me I go in the register, go look.
All right, brother. Well,
because if we have a piece up there, for sure I will be glad to sell it. Get
I hope you find a piece and you get a couple millions too.
Try me, you go walk up there, but because we're supposed to know those areas.
All right. Okay, my brother.
Have a good night.
Take good care.
Yeah.
We continue to take your calls, ladies and gentlemen, at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
All right, good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening to you.
In the address on Monday,
Yes.
I listened to, the address, and then I had a chance to look at the bill, the Special Sustainability Zone bill. And going back to the speech on Monday, you made mention that the project could generate jobs, permanent jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars in direct revenue for government. My question is, what economic analysis produced those numbers?
Okay, so
can it be released?
Yes, well, that's what I said. That we intend to. We intend to because going back to Section 5, the first condition precedent, any developer who coming in and want to do a zone must present an economic analysis by a reputable economic. I'm reading from the Act. Shall present an economic analysis by a reputable economic advisory professional firm or institution forecasting that the proposed zone is likely to generate long-term economic opportunities, create permanent employment, attract foreign and domestic investment, and generate revenue for the benefit of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis for at least 10 years after operationalization. So that is the first requirement, and we do have that document, and we will be releasing it to the public.
Okay, I have a second question.
Sure.
Not to tie up the line. And it has to do with conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest. So in your speech on Monday,
yes,
you defended your wife's business as being private, and it is not something that is connected to government, which I fully understand, and I think people fully understand.
Yes.
However, I'm pretty sure you've been, whether it be via social media or just generally across St. Kitts and Nevis, or in Nevis in particular, you've been hearing the chatter, you've been hearing the public concern.
Yes.
My question is, and it's a two-part question, will you commit to like a formal declaration of any relationships or any client relationships rather between the developer for this initiative or this project and your wife's firm to remove any perception of conflict? Because even though
I'm not understanding the question. I have already confirmed that my wife is doing work for the developers. So
right.
What do you say?
Which I understand.
So what declaration do you want?
My question is the basically what should I call it? A list or whatever there is, a client relationship list between the developer and any firm to remove any perception of bias.
So you want a list of what? Because the developer is a company, as I believe it's called South Nevis Limited, and that company is working with my wife and others who are reaching out to people and asking people if they're minded to sell their land.
Okay.
So who do you want to see on that list?
Okay. So just trying to confirm, I don't want to misunderstand what you just stated. You just stated that your wife's real estate company is working with the developer to have the land sold or whatever it is in that area?
To reach out to landowners, bearing in mind, as I said, that the lands over there are private, and to ask them if they're minded to sell their land. So she's acting as a go-between between her client, who's the developer, and landowners, and asking if they're minded to sell their land.
Okay.
So I'm asking again, who do you want to see on the list?
You've answered the question. You've answered the question.
Okay.
This is what I was trying to get a better understanding of this. The second part of the question, which you kind of alluded to, was that, so you mentioned in the speech that, land sales are entirely voluntary.
Absolutely.
Which we understand. Nobody, no government, nobody at all could force you or force me to say, sell your land, and this is how much you must sell it for. But again, people have used the term harassing, that your wife's firm or your wife has been harassing persons to sell. How do you respond to these?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I don't work for my wife, and so I am not involved in her business in terms of calling or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But let's think now in terms of business. If you have a car, caller, and I am minded to buy your car, and I reach out to you and I said, you have a lovely car there, I want to buy it. I offer you $10,000 for it. You said to me, no, my car is not for sale. If I called you a week later and I said, man, I see the car, I really like it, I'll offer you $15,000. You say, no, my car is not for sale. A week later I call you, I say, man, would you take $20,000 for the car? Is that harassment or is that business?
Mm-hmm. It becomes harassment if you call me and I tell you I'm not interested. I'm gonna hold on to my land.
But
you call me again.
But business.
You call me again.
But caller.
You call me
caller.
I think that's where.
But caller, I don't know that to be true. Wait, hold on a second.
I'm not saying that.
I'm just saying. Well, hold on. I just want to respond.
What harassment is?
Yes,
harassment is.
You asked me a question. Are you going to answer it yourself, or you want me to answer you?
Go ahead.
I'm trying to say to you that I do not know the circumstances, but business is business. The bottom line is that I don't understand this notion of harassment, because I will tell you, some people have categorically said they will not sell their land. End of story.
Right.
Others have said, I am not going to sell at that price, I want a higher price. That is the nature of business, as you should know. And I imagine that discussions and debates are happening. Well, you're offering $10, I want 20, and this kind of thing back and forth. So I am not understanding what people are saying about harassment, because all you need to tell somebody, don't call back my phone, and that is the end of the matter.
Okay, so I think you've given clarification / confirmation. The last part is,
yes,
there are people who view this as a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
How would you respond to them with that concern?
Well,
I'll listen off here.
Okay, caller. I think I understand when people say, is this a conflict of interest? My answer is no. The reason I say no is because if we were to take that argument to its logical conclusion, then it means, therefore, that anybody who enters public life in Nevis, who has a relative, who has a spouse, who has a child, that person would have to ask those people, listen, you cannot do any business on Nevis. I'm going to pick on my colleague Spencer Brand, for example. Spencer Brand's son went away and studied to be an architect. Is it a conflict of interest if Brand's architectural run by his son gets a job to do a building in Nevis? Is it a conflict because that building has to go to the Department of Planning? Some may say, yes, that's a conflict. He should not be doing any work. But if that is the case, then I ask you this question. The leader of NRP, her brother is one of the biggest real estate developers in Nevis. Should her brother shut down his operations because his sister is in politics? And if she were to become premier, must he shut down all that he's doing on the island because there's a conflict? We have to be very careful where we're headed with this type of argument. Now, I understand the politics of it, but I have continued to say my wife has been a licensed, tax-paying real estate business for 20 years before I got into politics. And so if the public is going to say that anybody involved in politics now, everybody around them must shut down and not be able to do any form of private business, not government business, because if the government was selling land and my wife were to be involved in selling government land, I would be the first to say, no, that cannot happen, because that, to my mind, is a conflict. But if, caller, you have a home in Nevis and you were to call up my wife and said, could you sell my home for me? How does the conflict arise? Taxes would have to be paid, transfer tax, it would have to go to the inland revenue. So do you say, well, oh, she husband is the Minister of Finance and therefore there's a conflict? I believe that this is something that is really just being manufactured, because taken to its logical conclusion, it does not make sense. It does not make sense. So I said to people, show me any instance where government is using its resources in some way to benefit any member of my family. I have a wife who has a master's degree. I have 2 daughters who are lawyers and who have master's degrees. They've gone to some of the better schools in the world, praise be to God. Not one of them is on any board in Nevis. Not one of them is doing anything in relation to government, because I have made that my position. I am not going to take family members. It is not always so, because we saw, for example, in St. Kitts, in the past dispensation, where brothers and sisters were put everywhere. That is my personal position. And so while I hear what you're saying about conflict, I think that that conflict is more imaginary than real. And I truly believe that if that were to become the new rule, then nobody involved in public life could have anybody, even if it's a cousin, even if it's a cousin or a best friend, because they will say, oh, this person is Chai's best friend, so there's a conflict. In an island the size of Nevis, 12,500 people, caller, where would that leave us? So I think before we say these things and we get into this frenzy, we need to think about them and to determine, listen, is that what we're saying, what we really want to say? Chai's father does construction, a good friend of mine. So if he were, for example, to get a job, do you say, well, that's conflict of interest? And so he must go home, go sit down, and not work, not feed his family? These are, I think, the kinds of concerns, caller. So that is why I am not really even focused on this talk about my wife. My wife is working as she's entitled to do. She's a professional, and she's giving a service. And certainly, if you have property to sell, I suggest you call her. She's very good at what she does. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Caller, please bear with us. Let's try this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello?
Premier Brantley, good night.
Good night to you.
Well, me say me not get in again.
You're in now. Go ahead.
Chai, good night.
Good night, good night.
I'm in Chai the same month, eh? Month of May.
Okay.
Premier Brantley,
Yes.
me miss you. so let me say up that me miss you.
Well, I'm back now. Thank God.
Yes. And let me. The first question I go ask tonight, and me notice that you scripture lady not coming tonight.
Well, you know, tonight is a night dealing with a specific topic, so that's what we're trying to, you know, stay on it.
Put God first. The scripture then supposed to.
All right. Well,
right?
she didn't call in. You have a scripture then?
No.
Well, you ain't got none, but you're saying put God first.
No, me got many scriptures.
Okay.
Listen, how many brainchild behind the bill?
The brainchild behind the bill?
Yeah. Only one that come forward and.
I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. The bill would have been done at the Attorney General's office. They do national bills.
So you know, me got no input at all on the bill there?
I had an input in the Parliament. I actually stood up and debated the bill.
No, me hear that. Me listen to the
Yes.
Parliament. Me want to know who brings forward the bill.
But I just answered you. I said bills at the national level are done at the Attorney General's office.
Okay. This is the reason why me ask.
Yes. Call away on another time, so please, quick, if you can. I don't want to rush you, but, you know, we only have 20 minutes left.
Okay, so I will go back by, when Carlin, they asked the question at the town hall.
Yes.
You may flip on the word, rumor.
I did not. She's the one who said she heard rumors.
Okay, yeah, but she say, okay, let me even forgot about the Roma thing, and then you still go back and say Roma again. Anyway, you said that you never build one road to go to the area there. But because of the developers them now come along, you decide to postpone that and let the developer them do the road instead. Remember saying that?
Of course.
Exactly. The proposal they made before the town hall or after?
What proposal?
To build the road and change your mind.
Well, we said that we talked about the road since I believe we put it into our manifesto in when was the election? 2022. So that idea about the road was there for some time. But we were preparing to do the request for proposals on the road when these developers first approached us and said that they had an interest in that side of the island. And as I said, because I played the clip at the top of the show, we told them, well, we can't help you because we don't have any land, so go and talk to the landowners and then come back to us. At that point, we decide, let us pause, because if something were to happen over there, then certainly it makes no sense for taxpayers to go and pay for a road when people are coming in to do development and can do the road at their expense.
Yeah, me understand all that.
Yes.
Premier. So may I ask you if that day was done before calling question or after?
If what was done? Our decision to hold?
For whole, because the developer then talked.
Yes, that probably was before. Yes, it was before.
Exactly. So then, why you answer calling the weather then?
But what I don't caller, I was very clear, you know. I said, and if you want me to play the clip again of what I said, I said, but caller, listen to me. I said to the young woman that we have had a preliminary approach by some people who said they want to do a development on the south coast. However, since we have no land, we've asked the people to go and talk to the private landowners and see if they can buy land. We have had no formal proposal before the cabinet, and I therefore do not want to get into any rumors, and what is rumored, I prefer to deal with fact. That is what I said.
Okay.
Well, what is wrong with that?
Okay. Well, no, so you come over like how you're doing now, you know.
Well, me don't know we come over.
You're not no, but
I played. Did you listen to the clip earlier?
Me listen to everything.
And you never hear that? You never hear when I say that we had a preliminary approach?
Yeah, me hear all that. But the point about it, Carlin, me ask you if you know about any development that will take place over there, and you say rumor.
But I never said rumor, first of all. She said rumor. But wait, caller, hold on.
Yeah.
I cannot say that I know that a development is happening over there before I have a formal application before the government. So you mean if I meet you in town tomorrow, you tell me, boy, I want to build something on at Pinnies. I must go on radio go say that something is going to be built on at Pinnies, and me not got nothing in front of me as government?
Yeah, but you postpone the road because you hear about the development.
Well, I hear about a possibility where you want me to take up Nevis people money go put in road when I have a possibility of a development?
No.
What are you saying?
Why you do first reading, second reading, and third reading now one day?
That is not happening one day, caller. Do not tell untruths. There was a first reading, whenever it was, and the second reading was August 11th. I can't remember when the first reading was, but I think it was probably 2 weeks or so before the second reading.
Okay, but the rules, the Erskine made the rules, like a money bill, we can understand that. But this no me a money bill. So this may an emergency or something?
But why you say it's an emergency? The bill went through the usual passage. It went for first reading. And then
first reading,
yes.
But after first reading, the bill no usually come back out to the public for the public that one say, and then go back in for the second and third reading.
But that is normally the course. I don't know whether that was done because I don't usually check on that from a national point of view. So I don't know what the Attorney General's office would have done. But I do know the bill went on the first reading. The House was adjourned, and then a week, 2 weeks, whatever period it was, on August 11th, we went back and we had the debate.
But you personally not come to use constituency with the bill, forget well, after the first reading, the second and the third.
Caller, I am not in the habit of going to my constituency with a bill.
Okay.
Well, you acting like I've been in Parliament for 18 years. I have never gone to my constituency with a bill. I engage, for example, if there's something that I don't understand, something technical, I will call people who can help me and advise me on that technicality. But I don't understand why everybody is acting as if this is something brand new.
Everybody acting brand new.
Exactly.
Okay, then Premier Brantley, when we get some more time with you, because we notice all the rest time we got time with you, but not tonight.
Yeah, tonight is a hot topic, so thanks for your calls and your input, okay?
Okay, no problem.
All right, the phones are still ringing, so we go back to the phones. We're trying to take as many calls as possible. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening, Honorable Brantley. How are you?
Good evening, I'm well, thank you.
Great. A question for you, Honorable Premier. I know that you said that no one is forcing the landowners, to purchase. If they want to purchase, they purchase. However, I must ask this question. What about if the land in the area where the lands are deemed sustainable, a part of the sustainable zone? What does the government do then?
The lands cannot be deemed a part of the sustainable zone, caller. If I'm encouraging our people who are commenting publicly to read and to pay attention, because the law is very clear that any sustainable zone, the developer has to come with a defined geographic area. So no developer could come and have your land declared as part of a sustainable development zone. The developer must have the land.
Okay, so the developer must have all the land obviously must be together. The developer must have the land.
The developer must have the land, because when the developer comes, the developer must say, I have this 1,000 acres, I have this 2,000 acres, and I want it declared as a sustainable zone. That is what the legislation seeks to do. So I don't know where this notion is coming from, that somebody's land could be declared a zone. Well, how that's going to happen? You there, caller, or you gone? Well, it look like the caller gone. Caller, this isn't... I believe I recognize this caller voice, and this caller should know. This isn't Sunday school, you know? And this is the problem I have. Too many of you are out there chatting. I wouldn't even take the time to read. We say we have a 99% literacy rate, but too many of us are not paying attention. Read, understand, before you all call in and start to say these kinds of things. That is where misinformation comes in, because you're not informing yourself. Let's go back to the phones. We have 10 minutes. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Premier Brantley.
Good evening, brother.
Premier Brantley, you just said that is not Sunday school, right?
Mm.
But Sunday school taught me a lot of good things, so.
It taught me too.
So,
go ahead.
What I would say, I would say, this is not that house. Because, and Premier Brantley, can I suggest this? When somebody, remember, you don't have eternity on the show. Mm-hmm. So somebody call you and ask you a question. You answer the question, they say, okay. And then they ask you a few more questions. And when they don't get what they want you to say, they come back again and ask you this first question again. Mm-hmm. You need to just close your mouth. Also, it seems as though that people forget that while it is true that leaders are responsible to their subjects, it is also true that the subjects elect leaders to lead. So, leaders cannot explain every iota to every single person in the country, otherwise nothing will be done. You elect leaders to lead. Yes, they're responsible to the public. But how far can you go? So you want to build a school in Gingerland. And everybody in Nevis calling and asking a million questions. By the time you can't build a school again. After a while, leaders, I'm not talking about you, and I'm talking about leaders in general. after a while, I expect leaders to lead. Good night.
Thank you very much, caller. The caller used a good analogy too, you know, because remember we had to redo the office at Gingerland Secondary School, and there was a whole lot of talk about the office that was there before, but the building was functionally obsolete, and the structure itself was failing. We had to take it down and redo the office, and now everybody is all pleased about the new office that's there.
So, caller, I agree, and Troy, I think you made a good point that leaders have to lead. But part of leading is also to listen. And we have tried as a government to listen, to consult, and really to hear from our people. And all I've asked from our people is, listen, let's put aside the hysteria. Some of them are obviously playing politics, because I know of one individual, for example, who is publicly saying all kind of things and privately saying the complete opposite. So this is the type of thing I think that the country needs. You see, this debate we've had tonight, a gentleman has called, and the one was called with his multiple part questions. And I feel that through that discussion, we're actually helping to edify the public and let the public know, well, this is how this thing works. And I think that's important. Let's go back to the phones quickly. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
I would like to make a contribution to the show, please.
Sure, please, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. I think what has some people confused is that the sustainable zone, or how I understand it, can it be anywhere beside the southern part of Nevis?
Yes, it can be anywhere in St. Kitts, it can be anywhere in Nevis. Wherever a developer has land, they can apply to have a sustainable zone declared.
Let them understand that, because I think the confusion comes in that you think that is just there on the southern end, because I've seen drawings and they assume that is just there.
No, it can be anywhere. The law says St. Kitts or Nevis, any acreage can be declared a zone once that developer satisfies the preconditions of, you know, Section 5. It sets out a whole long list of preconditions, but that is how the zone can be created. So it can be south of Nevis, north of Nevis, west of Nevis. I think the south of Nevis has been sort of targeted because it's currently unoccupied. There's nothing over there.
Are there any tranches of how big can this acreage be? What's the minimum?
Well, as I said, it was taken out of the bill. So there's no minimum, there's no maximum at this point. Okay. The federal government said they wanted an opportunity to discuss that in the cabinet. And so the original bill had said a minimum of 500 acres in Nevis and 715 St. Kitts. But that was removed. So that is not part of the final act.
Okay, because I've seen documents, whatever they're saying, 6 miles.
No, well, that I can tell you that is nonsense. I see somebody put up something, and thankfully they shaded it in green. So I think that spoke for itself. But it went from Butlers in the east all the way back around to Bath, and that looked to me about 5,000-6,000 acres, right? I mean, it was, but you know, this is again is the problem, because we have a group of people out there who, rather than looking at the merits or demerits of the project and having a reasonable debate, as we're trying to do tonight, are simply engaged in trying to frighten people. So last night is a good example. You had a pundit on the show here saying the people creating their own country. And when challenged, he said it's in the law, but he can't find it up to now. The similar thing is when people are saying people can't go in the sea, fishermen can't fish. All of that is rubbish. A gentleman reached out to me just quickly. He's a fisherman, and he said, well, he's concerned because he's being told fishermen will not be able to fish. I said to the gentleman, why? He said, because there's a possibility of a seabed lease. I said to him, well, do you realize that Tamarind Cove has a seabed lease? You know Tamarind Cove, that development that was being done over there by the sea bridge?
Yes.
They have a seabed lease. Christoph Harbour has a seabed lease. Port Zante, there's a seabed lease. The reason for a seabed lease is because if you're going to build any kind of marine, meaning like a marina or anything, you have to put piles into the seabed. So you try to give the permission to do that. It has nothing to do with fishermen and people going beach and this kind of thing. But that is the level of nonsense that is being peddled, and unfortunately it's intended to frighten people. when in reality, the facts are there. Private lands are being sought to do a development. The development, we're being told, is going to be Four Seasons quality, but much larger. And they're talking about the possibility of at least 3 high-end residential and resort developments within this area that they're doing. And I just want to pause for a moment and ask Nevisions, could you just sit back and imagine the south coast of Nevis with that level of development? I mean, that is to me where we ought to have that debate. Could we imagine a Nevis where our young people are guaranteed good jobs, those who go away and study can come home and make their lives here? Can we imagine that Nevis? And to me, that is what I as Premier, as the leader of this island at this point in time, privileged to be in this position, that is what I have to be looking to, the future and how we leave a Nevis that is better than we left it. Can we just say to developer, we're not interested in any development, so leave the south coast over there. Barren, let the ocean continue to erode and take away. Because I was over there the other day, there's a house not far from the port. And I remember that property had significant land. Most of the land now is gone. So the ocean is just taking in the land. If you have an opportunity to do a development where all of that is restored, isn't that an opportunity to restore the reefs over there? Restore marine life.
But if possible, can you please find a way to put the amendment or the act online so that people can read?
Well, it should be online at the usual place.
Put a link. People don't know where the usual link is.
Well,
where they can see prominently.
So I hear you, and I will do what I can. But at the end of the day, normally the Attorney General's office would have all of these matters up. But I will undertake to do what you say.
To it so that people could go directly to it and they don't have to search for it, so they can read it.
All right. You're telling me that people need to be spoon-fed, so I will do that. Okay? And I hope when people get the link that they will actually read it for themselves. Because, as I say, going back to my... Okay, good. Going back to my friend from last night, Troy. If I was listening to him and did not have the benefit of what the legislation said, I would say, my God, this government crazy. They're allowing people to come here to go set up their own state, their own country in Nevis. But when he said it's in the act, I know the act, so I asked him, show me where. Up to now, he can't find it. And Weber kept asking, you find it yet? You find it yet? Can't find it. Try. I'll give you the final word.
You know, I got a WhatsApp here that says that caller who was calling a little bit earlier look like they want to come back home. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. But, you know, Mark, we just have to keep doing what we're doing. Don't get caught up in all of the hype and the fluff and so on. We just have to continue working on behalf of the good people of Nevis. We know that we need to bring development. We need to diversify the economy. The CBI now is getting to a point where it's starting to stagnate, and we need something for the people of Nevis. What we have here is something that could be a game changer. We just need to make sure that we keep this in hand and we come out with the best possible deal for the people of Nevis, so that people today can benefit and that many generations of Nevis to come can benefit in the same way that we have benefited from the likes of the Four Seasons and so on. We can benefit maybe 4 times from this. So that's my last one.
Thank you for that. The banner struck up, it means we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great opportunity to interact. I assure you, we will be coming time and time again. Please join me at my press conference tomorrow, where, again, some of this will be ventilated with members of the press. But we plan to come back to town hall meetings and the like, because we think that this is an important development and it is one that will benefit from full ventilation. I encourage our people to look at it with an open mind, think about development, think about where we want the island to go, and let us know what your views are so that we as your leaders can better serve you. Thank you very much. Good night and God bless you.
views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers. With all the